Welcome back to the 127 Fit podcast. Today's guest is a trainer, soft tissue therapist, and certified strength and conditioning specialist. Today's guest is Joel Ragsdale. Joel, I want to welcome you to the 127 Fit podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, my man. So we're going to just jump right into things, Joel. I've got a few questions to kind of get the conversation ball rolling. So the first question that I have for you is, how do you start your day? Do you have a specific morning routine or morning ritual that you like to stick to on most mornings?
Oh, I like to wake up and just kind of appreciate being alive.
Absolutely.
Once again, God woke me up for another day to accomplish. So just taking a moment to appreciate the warm bed, the nice house, and all the many blessings that I do have.
For sure.
And then after that, get the ball rolling.
Okay, cool. So is there like a, outside of kind of like the gratitude and stuff, do you eat right away in the morning? Is there like some sort of movement that's a part of that morning, or do you just kind of like wake up and then just kind of have your first client for the day, or what does that look like a little bit more specifically?
I usually wake up and, again, have a moment to myself, but then I actually don't eat. I have been intermittent fasting. I'm trying my best to. Yeah. And so I won't eat directly. I actually try to drink a big thing of water first thing in the morning.
Perfect. Yeah.
Just get the pipes flushed out. And then, I usually start off some morning clients, whether it's here or at one of my other locations that I'll mention. And then just a very my mornings are pretty relaxed.
Awesome.
I don't have to have a gun to my head and be running 1,000 miles per hour. So
I'm
that's lucky
cool
to have that. I don't need a big cup of coffee to start my day.
Yeah, no, me neither, man. I'm not a coffee drinker either. I always tell people, I'm like, dude, like I don't need coffee. Like I got enough juices flowing through me.
Right.
So cool. All right. So if there's more than one for these next three questions, feel free to share. But the next question that I have for you, Joel, is, do you have a favorite book or book that you like to gift often?
Favorite book? I definitely think depends on what I'm trying to feed. My spirit, my intelligence, as far as my career and stuff. A couple books that I've read recently that have been pretty impacting would be the Anatomy Trains book, which I can show you in a second. But it's a very popular book for soft tissue therapists. Cool. And actually anybody who's involved in fitness would benefit from it. But definitely gives you the blueprint in a nutshell on how the body works and the role of fascia and just kind of the updated knowledge on what we know about that stuff today. So that was a really good read. Sometimes I'll have little daily devotional books that I like to read.
Absolutely.
Quick little encouraging or stories, Bible verses, stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. So is there and if it's a Bible verse, that's cool too, but do you have like a favorite quote or mantra, or maybe there's just like maybe a word at some point in your life that's been very impactful?
A couple things come to mind. My grandpa, who was a big influence in my life, my dad's father, would go down and visit him in East Texas a few times a year. He was your typical, overalls, grease up the, get to work kind of guy, he owned a farm. So he would always, now a lot of my work ethic, I think, came from him.
Cool.
And he would always say, time is of the essence. Basically, that dude lived to be 92, I believe, and his lifestyle shouldn't have got him that far. And I think his literally his waking up and having kind of a mission and an agenda is what got him living so long.
For sure. Yeah.
So seeing that was really interesting.
So kind of with that kind of that quote, because that's definitely a powerful quote. Time is of the essence. It's just kind of like we do have a very short time here on this earth, and I think it's really important for all of us to understand why we're here. Like what is that why? What is that purpose? What is that passion? And I firmly believe, Joel, that as we find that passion, as we find that purpose, as we know our why, we have that foundation, we know why we're here on this earth, that just really ignites us to work that much harder, to serve harder, to love harder. Is that something that you've really found to be true in your life once you kind of found your why or your purpose, that it really drives you throughout the rest of your life?
I feel like I'm lucky at a young age of 29. I feel like I get this life thing pretty well. it doesn't matter what you believe in after life. I think we can all agree that, that our time on planet Earth is fairly short.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Despite what happens after. But so I kind of look at it that way, and I've working with 10-year-olds all the way to 80-year-olds. I see life in that spectrum unfold, and I see what a young, optimistic, bright-eyed young kid views the world, but then I also view how 50, 60, 70 and people in their last chapters of life, how they are walking this world of ours. And so I just think I have a good grasp that time is limited, it's precious, and how you can blink and you're a grumpy old man when you're 50 because you didn't do stuff with your time.
Yeah, for sure. So, for sure, great point.
Kind of time is of the essence. It's straightforward. It's not opinionated.
Right, right. No, I love it. That is a simple but powerful quote right there. So on the last question, Joel, as a part of the warm-up, do you have a favorite or most listened to podcast?
I actually am not too consistent with podcasts.
Okay.
Hopefully I get into yours a little bit
more.
Yeah,
dude, that'd be great. That'd be great. I'd love that.
This isn't a good reason, but I've been trying, actually, if I'm driving around, as we know, those Denver traffics can put you into some long wait. So I'll try to turn on just like the sermon from my church or something.
Great.
So
yeah.
I wouldn't consider that a podcast, but if I do have time, I'm actually trying to catch up with the sermons at the few churches I go to.
Beautiful. I love that, man. That's good. And that's an amazing thing about just the smartphones nowadays, and when you are stuck in that traffic or food prepping or in between things, just day to day, like you can throw in those earbuds and man, you can listen to a sermon, you can listen to a podcast or a audio book. It's like there's so many opportunities for us to learn if we're open to it. So that's really awesome.
Well, most people listen to music in their car.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of just going in when you're out the other. If you're going to sit on I-25, why don't you actually learn something about fitness catch up with whatever you're studying, right? So actually, two birds with one stone.
For sure. Opinion. No, that's a great point, and I definitely try to put that in practice in my own life. So, all right, Joel, so I want to just kind of dig into a little bit in regards to like your backstory. So if you don't mind sharing with myself and the listeners, like where did you grow up? Kind of what were those younger years like? Were you involved in sports? Were you involved in other extracurricular activities? Was the outdoors a big part of your life? Kind of what were those younger years like? What kind of shaped those younger years? And then after we kind of talk about those younger years, we'll kind of move on to kind of like post high school and bring us up to where you're at today. But let's start kind of there in the childhood. What was that like for you?
Oh, I think I had a pretty easy and, mellow childhood. Nothing no major struggles.
Yeah.
Pretty typical childhood. Was outside with my friends, riding bikes as much as I could. I was always a bigger kid. I was definitely like the husky kid in school. So my dad put me in sports as soon as possible. Tried, obviously most kids played soccer. I was fine with that. Tried baseball, couldn't hit the ball.
Yeah, no, I couldn't either, dude. I couldn't either.
So he was like, well, I have this big kid. Why don't we put him in football? So
there you go, yeah.
He put me on the football team in 3rd grade, and I just remember being like, I can remember it to this day, kind of walking down to practice, and all the kids just being like, who's this kid? And so at that point, I was like, oh, you're a big kid.
Right.
And so football, I definitely found a passion in that. I think because I was good at it.
For sure,
I was
of course.
instant talent, just moving. I was a lineman, so I'd move kids around.
For sure.
I don't know if they did this in every state, but in Pee Wee League, they do patch and double patch for weights.
Oh, okay.
So if you're a light kid, you have no patches. If you're in a certain range, you get one patch, and then if you're a big boy, you get double patch, and that means you have to play on the line. You can't touch the ball or anything.
Oh, okay.
So I was a big boy in my whole childhood, but football, ran with it, definitely became passionate about it, and that kind of was, became my engine, and sure enough was my engine for fitness later on. But and around that same time, my dad would take me to Goodson Rec Center, which is an old but really decent gym down on, I want to say, Arapahoe and Holly-ish,
Okay.
maybe a little further.
In the Denver area, for those listeners that aren't familiar with the Denver area, right? You're talking about Denver.
Right. So southern part of Denver, I'd say, and I was down in there at probably late elementary school, middle school, and he would just have me join him, and he would go do some free weights and I'd do some machines. Nothing that I would get hurt doing, but so I remember walking in and moving weights around at a very young age, being in the gym.
Yeah.
Fast forward, and nothing else really crazy outside of that. Just a typical childhood. You'd go to school.
Yeah.
Go to football practice after, maybe hang out with some friends.
Cool. Any siblings or anything?
So I do have an older sister.
Okay.
I have an older sister, Rachel.
And you laughed when you said that. So was there a little turmoil between you two or something?
Back then there was.
Yeah.
My sister is one of my best friends. We have such a great relationship as siblings. Very blessed to have that relationship.
Yeah.
Look up to her a lot in many ways. You're gonna have to get her on your podcast for the stuff she does.
That'd be great.
She owns a neurofeedback company called Neuroptimize, which is spread out through all over Colorado.
I'd love to have her
Texas.
on. Yeah, sweet.
But yeah, we were definitely we would butt heads. She would pick on me, and I usually got the tail end of it. So
right.
Eventually, something happened. I think I got big enough where she couldn't pick on me anymore, and then so we were like, all right, instead of battling each other, let's turn our forces towards the parents.
Right, there you go.
So we teamed up, and we would give our parents trouble, but but other than that, definitely was not into outdoors back then.
Okay,
I think as a kid, you're limited. You can't get on a car and just drive
for sure.
Around. So I remember in elementary and middle school, like my group of friends, we despised Colorado because there's nothing to do.
Okay.
So to us, there was nothing
to
do.
I get it.
And so it was cold most of the year, and I just remember us being like sour to Colorado. And now I laugh at that because I'm like, dude, you had a playground at your fingertips.
Right,
man.
for sure.
And
yeah.
So that's kind of what it was like back in the youth days. It's just. You're a young kid, you're just navigating life and wondering what's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and when you're hanging out with your friends next. I think I definitely, if you could say I was a rambunctious or troubled kid, that was when I was back then.
Okay.
I had a best friend that lived up the street from me, and I wouldn't say we were like troublemakers, but we could, if we were bored. I think that's what it was we didn't have those outdoor activities at our options, so kids would run around the neighborhood.
And that's normal. That's normal. I mean, my younger brother and myself were the same way. We'd get on our bikes, we'd be around different kids, and we're kids are supposed to be exploring.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? My parents, I grew up very free range, so we'd be on our bikes, we'd be driving around, riding our bikes around town. We'd be getting not into a lot of trouble, but we were mischievous. We were we were curious.
Exactly.
We were exploring, and that's healthy. I mean, it's healthy. So I mean, that should be normal. That should be typical. Unfortunately, nowadays it seems like with the helicopter parenting that we have going on, you can drive through so many different neighborhoods across our country, and you don't even see kids outside anymore. I'm talking about summertime. I'm talking about fall when it's nice and kids should be out. I mean, outside of the kind of the football and the sports stuff, but you don't see kids out on their bicycles driving through nice neighborhoods like we're in right now. Really, you just don't see it.
That's true,
and it's an unfortunate thing. So
they're all huddled up playing Fortnite.
It is. I mean that is. I mean with the smartphones and video games. I mean I grew up playing video games, but. And watching TV, but there was a great balance of being outside, exploring, playing cowboys and Indians, just living life as two boys, as two young people should, So now in regards to just being a bigger boy, did at any point did you get did people make fun of you or anything, or did that not really happen a whole lot?
That is an interesting question. I almost got two sides of being a bigger kid, and I'm talking standout bigger kid.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I would get made fun of by older kids, like my sister's friends would and it was a weird denial that I didn't even think I was fat. I can look at pictures now and be like, geez, lay off the Twinkies.
Yeah, right.
But I would look in the mirror and be like, I'm not fat, you know? So kids would call me, I remember like one of my sister's friends would call me cankles.
Okay, there you go. Which
I'll explain. It's when your legs are so big you can't see the difference between your calf and your ankles. If you know what that means. But so little things like that, you know, people would poke at me, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I wasn't an aggressive person, so I wouldn't go beat them up or something, but it would hurt my feelings. On top of that, you know, growing up with my friend, I'll just say he was like the only black kid in the school. He lived up the street from me. We became best friends, and I swear, me being the bigger kid and him being the only colored person at the school, probably, it kind of put a spotlight on us, I think. So I'm not going to say we were angels. We were far from that.
Right.
But anything that we did, anything he did, I would be tied to it, right? Anything that both of us did together would be inflamed or magnified significantly. So again, we weren't perfect and we weren't angels, but I definitely got painted into being a bully in elementary school.
Okay, interesting.
And I personally think every school has to point a finger at who a bully is.
Right.
So I was the easiest person to do that, but I don't think I didn't go out of my way to pick on kids or make them feel bad.
Right, yeah.
You know, I feel like I've always been a good-hearted person. So, so that was kind of the cloud of my elementary school is I would have to meet with the counselor. And not that I had problems, but they would wonder, why do you bully or why do you pick on kids? And I'm just sitting here like, this is ridiculous.
Right, yeah. Interesting.
And so it's kind of funny because that counselor goes to the church, the Colorado Community Church out in Aurora. Cool. So I see him in the crowd sometimes. I'm just like, dude, I wasn't a bully. But so that was the childhood kind of what leaves the most impression with me was like, you know, I was labeled as a bully, but I was also picked on for being a big kid. So it was like being a big kid did not help me out. Only in football, really. That was the only place where I was like, hi, I can be this size, right? I can physically handle people at this size, and I'm not going to get in trouble or be called a bully. I'll get rewarded for that.
Absolutely,
right? So that actually kind of probably made football even better and more of a getaway and a happy place for me. And I guess after that, I went to West Middle School, where people think of West Middle School as like the West Penitentiary because it's just such a cold building and just very strict and not a lot of fun, I'll say. If you're in this area, you either went to West Middle School or you went to campus. High school or middle school. Campus was fun. West was like, ugh. And that was kind of a not an uneventful chapter of life, I'd say. You know, not a lot happened. I continued to, I guess, grow. If anything, I started to get taller and my fat evened out.
You filled in your frame.
I filled in my frame. I didn't have to. Luckily that kind of dealt with my weight issues, if you even want to call it that.
For sure.
But that just evened out my frame, and I was again like the tallest kid in the middle school, and I've always looked 3 to 5 years older than I am. Like I can, my people ask if I'm the older sibling out of my sister.
Oh, really?
I look older. And so middle school was uneventful. Continued to get better and better at football. I think that was definitely a highlight. But nothing really dramatic happened during that time of life.
So then once you get into high school and stuff, was football still kind of the main focus, and did it kind of go to that next level then for you?
Absolutely. So went from West Middle School to Cherry Creek High School, which is I think it's the biggest public school in Colorado.
Oh, wow, cool.
There's like 5,000 kids or something.
Yeah.
And so you get dropped into, Cherry Creek High School is a great school. It has a lot of freedom. It has a lot of potential for success and great accolades, or you can spiral out of control because of the freedom and the access to whatever you want there.
Right.
And so you give a kid like me, who, you know, if you want to call rambunctious or easily distracted. I was never, I'll say this, I was never a super academic person.
Right,
Football
right.
was like, I could care less about school.
I was right with you,
right.
man. Yep.
If the subject didn't appeal to me, it was not going to stick in my
For
brain.
sure.
Right.
Gotcha.
So,
yep.
Fully transparent, like freshman year of high school was a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
I was ditching school or class as often as, because you get dropped off at school and then nobody's like monitoring you or anything.
Right. Okay.
You would eventually, if teachers took attendance, you could get called in for ditching if you had so many offenses, but you could do a lot. You could do whatever you want. Go to school, not go to school. So my friends and I would often ditch a class and have an extended lunch, come back, just count down the hours to football. That's really all I cared about. It was like school was a blur, and then football was where it was at.
Absolutely.
And again, same thing. I'm the biggest, probably most stout kid there, so the coaches, a lot of attention's drawn to me, and they're like, "How can we use this kid?"
Right. Right.
That was. I would say that freshman year was one of the last years football was really fun. Really fun.
Okay.
That's when, there wasn't a lot of pressure, not a whole lot of expectations. That's actually when they moved me for the first time. I was a lineman my whole life. And then, I got a little longer, a little leaner, and so they put me at linebacker. So that was actually a pretty important part of my football life is when I was like, oh, I can play something besides line. Awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
And so that was just very much, hey, you're a big athlete, like go find the ball.
For sure.
And I'm like, I can do that.
Yep.
So freshman year, although football was on the rise and it was a great thing for me, my grades caught up.
Yep.
So ditching, going off on off periods, smoking weed, just being a little high school punk, man. Honestly. Eventually, my grades got so bad that I was ineligible for one of my games. I had like D's and F's, and they're like, "You are not eligible, you idiot."
Yeah.
I'm like, "What do you mean? Fix it?" I didn't know that was even a possibility.
Right.
Nobody explained to me what it was going to take. They just dropped you into the high school and said, "Good luck." So nobody. God bless my parents, but they weren't necessarily on top of like my homework schedule.
For sure.
They weren't asking what my grades were.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was ineligible for one of our biggest opponents, Mullen, and that was like a really sour point. I was standing on the sideline. Luckily, we won that game, but I just remember like, dang it, like you actually have to work, like can't somebody work something out and make Isn't this the NCAA when you can just kind of pull some strings?
Yeah.
And so that actually was a very pivotal time of my life because that freshman year dug a very steep, slippery hole for me. After freshman year had ended, I had to take summer school because I literally ended with D's and F's. And my GPA freshman year, wait for it, was 0.8. 0.8. Not even 1.
That's crazy, man.
So people like...
It must have been a lot more F's than D's, huh?
Dude, people like tell me you have to try to get grades that bad. Like, what were you doing? So I honestly don't know. Freshman year was just an ugly blur.
Yeah.
But all I know is I was left with a very bad GPA. I was going to be basically ineligible to play football. And I had to take summer school the whole summer. That was brutal. So that was kind of a good wake-up call. It's like, hey, you're going to spend your whole summer in school again if you don't at least pass some classes. So you need to get it together, dude.
For sure.
So then I think it was freshman summer, I get my letter in the mail saying, hey, you're, I think, either invited or you're going to be put in this class called Sophomore Enriched Seminar. And it was for a class. They phrased it really nice, but they were like, this is for a class for people who screwed up big time with their grades. But we feel like whether you're an athlete or, whatever your scenario is, we feel like there's hope for a turnaround.
Yeah.
So at the time, I thought I was getting put in this stupid class. But I can look back now and say that class changed my life for the better. And I swear if every high school had this class, we would be looking at a different country.
Wow.
I swear on my life, dude. So this class, and luckily, I think one or two of my other kind of hoodlum friends were put in this class too. So I was like, okay, if him and him are in this, then I guess we can make do.
Right. Yeah.
So fast forward to sophomore year, which was one of the best years of my high school life. Football was thriving. I got, I think, my first serious girlfriend around that year.
Okay.
And she was, the smoking hot girl on campus.
Having your first girlfriend, boyfriend, or relationship in high school, that I know for me that made high school a little bit more enjoyable.
Right.
But mine wasn't until towards the end of junior year, senior year. So you got it a little bit earlier than me. So yeah.
So I was in this class. I was a little bit more prepared. Like, okay, you need to show up to these classes.
Yeah,
you cannot ditch, and you actually have to do. Another thing I'm more ashamed of is how much I cheated in high school.
Wow. Okay.
I did a lot of cheating. I hate to say this, but I probably was that typical dumb jock that was, I would come copy somebody's homework before class.
Yeah. I mean, in full transparency, I cheated a lot too, especially my junior year. I had chemistry class, and I just knew, I failed every single test the whole year in chemistry, and I passed, I believe, with a D+, C- something. The only reason why I passed with that grade or with any grade above an F is because, so we had 6:15 early bird weightlifting, and then there was a 6:45 weightlifting class after. So a lot of us guys that were in the 6:15, the smart kids were in the later class. So we would literally just get into their backpacks, and then we would pull out their chemistry homework. we copied it verbatim.
Don't mind me.
So that is exactly how I passed chemistry my junior year in high school, which I don't even know how the teacher didn't recognize that 20 of us guys had the exact same homework, that were struggling in the class as the kids that were getting A's and B's. But it worked out. So, I was in the same boat, but go ahead, keep kind of sharing about that.
And I know a lot of my friends and teammates, they would cheat, but I think I would really put, it's like if you put the amount of effort into being a good cheater that you did to study, you probably would pass.
That's an awesome point. Yeah, for sure.
That's really just where my mindset was. It was okay, football, what do I have to do to get this homework turned in and pass this test? And it was just, but I was slowly wising up. I think there were some seeds planted. There was a rude awakening freshman year, and then this class, sophomore year, planted some very important life seeds. Let me tell you about this class, because I think it was, and it's sad because I think it's slowly getting dissolved out of the system, which is just a shame.
Yeah.
But this class, they would take, if you had a really bad, rough freshman start, they would take you and put you in this class. This was just like a real life, buckle up for life class. Okay. So it was like, hey, you guys got put in this class because you didn't do good, your grades suck. Yeah. And let's just give you a rude awakening on what it's going to look like if you continue to get bad grades, and then here's what happens if you graduate, here's what happens if you don't graduate.
Right.
Here's what life looks like if you don't graduate and have to get a 9-to-5 job at Home Depot and have to pay rent for an apartment.
For sure. Yeah.
So they would really actually make you look at things side to side and actually do research.
That. Yeah, that's great.
It was a very, you don't want to, they would say things you don't want to hear as a young kid.
Right.
I'll never forget this one teacher. It was taught by 3 teachers. So it was in an auditorium, and there would be 3 teachers up there that would kind of alternate.
Yeah.
And they were responsible for a third of the classes as far as grading stuff.
Okay.
But it was really cool because they would kind of mix up the teachers, and you'd get a little variety, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And so one of the teachers who would sit up there just with the most proud face and say these things, and I would just sit there with my arms crossed, be like, you don't know anything.
Right.
So I remember he said, look around at your group of friends. You're not going to be friends with any of them in 10 years. And I was just like, shut your mouth.
Right.
I was like, my friends are like my road dogs. Like, I'm going to be with them till the day I die.
Right.
You don't know crap.
Yep.
And so that class, here was a really important part of that class, was that there was a part where they made us go into the computer lab, and they made us do an online simulated application for a college.
Okay.
Which was really like you'd have to punch in the criteria you had, your GPA, your test scores. Then you had to search through all the different degrees that were listed, and I'm talking hundreds.
Of course, yeah.
And I couldn't pronounce half of them. I was like, Crimicon, a lot of what? Like, so then I scrolling, and I see this one that says exercise science, and I was like, I love to exercise.
Yeah.
And science is the only class that is remotely interesting, so I'll go with that. And so, but my thought process then was, what do I have to study while I play football in college? And so my sophomore year, Cherry Creek was, that high caliber football program. They literally, freshmen had their own little team, sophomores and juniors would play JV, and then seniors would play varsity basically.
Okay, wow.
There was a lot of teams.
Yeah.
So my sophomore year, I was starting on JV, and then I played a lot of varsity, and I was like one of the only I was probably the only sophomore that actually played varsity.
Okay.
And so I want to say that was a little gas into my fuel tank of, you could probably go play in college or something if you're getting this amount of attention from these coaches. And so that was really my mindset, was like, I want to go to the NFL. It ended up being my kind of dream, my childhood dream. I want to play for the Dallas Cowboys, actually.
Yeah.
I want to be a middle linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys, and that was my dream and goal back then.
Absolutely.
And I always knew how hard it was to get to the NFL, but I was like, that's my goal. I'm going to put it there until it's not realistic.
Yep.
And I would say this also, is that I've kind of had the Rudy struggle, but I'm not a tiny person. I've had this Rudy underdog struggle to play football, but I'm not like an undersized person. So it's really, football was an interesting chapter of life for me. But going back to that, that was my mindset. What do I have to play? What do I have to study while I play football in college, because I'm going to go to the NFL? Like, I do that a lot in my life, is I kind of skip the stepping stones and look at the rainbow at the end.
Yeah.
Which will come to play in a second. But and so found the degree, and I was like, boom, that's what I would go study. And that was actually a major head start for me, because I mean, as you know, going through college, like, you probably had a lot of friends that went in undecided, or they switched majors. Maybe you did. I don't know.
No, I never switched majors, but I mean, there's a lot of people that go in that are undecided and all that type of stuff. So
I just didn't want to. I heard horror stories about people going in undecided and then switching halfway through. And I've watched that happen, and I just see the loans pile up.
For sure, absolutely, yeah.
So I was like, I need to go in there with a direction. I need to get this done as fast as possible, and then see what happens from there.
Yeah.
So sophomore year, a lot of good football activity going on. As far as my social life, I feel like I'm king of the hill.
Yeah.
I'm the man on the football field. I got this cool, hot girlfriend, and like this group of homies that are just like ride or die guys to me.
Yeah.
So I thought, at least. And excuse me. And so it was around probably sophomore, summer, junior year-ish. My social group went sour real bad, I'll say this.
Okay.
And I don't even want to dwell on this too much, but my whole group of friends, every scenario you can imagine, betrayed me, whether it was... I had a group of my best friend that I grew up with, his older brother, who was like a brother to me, and some of his friends basically broke into my house in Greenwood Village and stole stuff from me. And so that was a relationship ending, really sad part of life.
For sure.
Somebody that was considered a family member to me would kind of help let that happen.
Right.
Like, like myself and my family opened up our doors and family to you guys for years, and you're gonna literally break into my house with my own key. So it was that was an example. Some of my broke up with that girlfriend around then, and then let's just say my friend's loyalty was put on the spotlight.
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of my friends showed their true colors during the last part of my high school chapter. So sadly, my high school social life was kind of dull and sour and really disappointing my last few years of high school, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah.
I'm friends with a few people from high schools, but as many people as I knew, I'm very much disconnected from Creek.
For sure.
And don't want to even dust off that part of my life. So at that point, right, like my social life was kind of shaky and really, I don't want to say depressing, but it was like not what it was sophomore year. Football was all I could depend on. And my family. You know, I grew probably closer to my parents during that point. They helped me out with a lot of those social things to navigate, but football was my go-to. I could put on my helmet and I could disconnect and I could go be an athlete.
For sure.
And just, that was really the only time I could really stop thinking about all the crap going on, you know? And so I think around that time actually is when it's actually a full story circle here is we moved here around my senior year. I was kind of anchoring my family back that way because I was best friends with that guy and his family. After they kind of screwed me over and really showed their true colors, I was like, why? I don't want to, you know, if you guys want to move, let's move in. You know, I'm not going to hold us to this broken friendship, so let's move. So then, you know, my family looked all over the area and they landed in this place, Parker, which we've been in this house for I think like 10 or 12 years now. 10 years. And so I tell you what, man, back then this was the only neighborhood in, like, this was considered the boonies. There was nothing else here. There was cows in our backyard. And something about leaving high school, driving, you know, onto this, Lincoln, which was a kind of a country feeling road. Just getting away did so much for my soul, man. It was, I don't know why, but I just felt like I was getting away from it, you know, even though it wasn't too far, but.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the trend, man, just disappointment with friends and just putting all my effort into football and relying on that. And then so around my senior year of high school, I could have transferred to this school called Chaparral, which is right across the street here. I could have just transferred there, and that would have been the easiest thing, right? I wanted to stay at Cherry Creek because, one, it has a really good academic reputation around the country.
Right.
It holds weight. Second of all, I was playing football with John Elway's son, Jack Elway. And great kid, really, really nice, humble, freak athlete, obviously. And so I actually wanted to kind of use him. I knew he was going to be getting a lot of spotlight of colleges, so I was like, okay, well, you're going to have a bigger spotlight at Cherry Creek than at Chaparral High School.
Absolutely,
so hopefully some coaches will see you there. I'll say this, even at that time, it's a whole different story now, but at that time, Creek was not good at helping kids get off to college. They, like, after your last snap of high school, done with you. They wouldn't do anything. So I was myself and my mom, who didn't know the difference between a receiver and a quarterback.
My mom didn't either.
She was basically the person helping me put together like highlight films and try to reach out to coaches. So again, bless her soul for helping me, but she wasn't probably the best person to help a serious athlete get, you know, steps towards the next level. But I was expecting scholarship offers to just come rolling in. You know? I had good, you know, all-state achievements, stuff that would get you on the spotlight. For whatever reason, and I honestly think it was due to my grades. My grades were so sketchy. They were probably like, okay, this dude's not even eligible. But didn't get any major scholarship offers. I mean, probably some D2s in the States. CSU Pueblo, that was their first year opening their football program, and they were trying to recruit me. And I was just like, I don't want to go to Pueblo. I don't want to be a part of this, like, first draft. Lo and behold, they're like stellar in D2 now.
Are they pretty legit?
They've won, I think, a championship.
Oh, wow, cool.
So it's like, But all I knew was I wanted to play I wanted to play college football. I put a lot of my attention and effort into getting down to Texas. So I reached out to my sister had been going to Baylor at the time, so I was like, hey, let's see what the program looks like there. For whatever reason, I really was attracted to Texas Tech.
Okay.
And so I looked at I applied to those schools, and then a few other D2s in the state, which I'm not going to list them off, but Abilene Christian was one of them. And I don't know, I think they were ranked high in the D2 rankings, so that's why that school kind of, and the fact it was a Christian school, I was like, okay, let's see what this is all about. So I'm looking at kind of where I can go. I barely graduated high school.
Right.
Barely graduated, man. And here's another funny bump in the road, but as you know, my slippery starts freshman year created some complications, right? I had some voids missing. My end of junior year, my guidance counselor retires, and he was the man. He knew my goals, he knew my struggles, and he was going to help me.
Right.
He retires because he wants to go start his stained glass company.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, good for you, man, but what do I do now?
Yeah.
So he, some other guidance counselor fills his role. I get called down probably a couple months before graduation, and she's like, hey, I was reviewing your kind of whatever they call it, final
transcripts.
Right, transcripts, and you're missing a few things. And basically, she was saying you're not going to graduate. You might have to do one more semester. I'm like,
wow.
I'm like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
I'm not going to be the dumb fifth year senior.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm supposed to go off to college next year. So, so I basically told her, I was like, that's not going to happen. You need to figure out something else. This is your fault.
Right.
Y'all are the one who's supposed to stay on top of this. I'm supposed to get the good grades and do what you say. So they end up figuring out something, and I had to do this crash course online program, which was for people in third grade. I'll just say that. It was the dumbest thing I ever had to do, but I had to do it enough to pass, graduate. And then done with Cherry Creek. So, again, I barely graduated, but finally that was in the books. At least I thought. So, that comes back around in a few years. I'll explain that. So then I applied to a few schools in Texas. Didn't get into Texas Tech. Baylor calls me back, says, hey, our roster's full. Thanks. You looked like a great athlete, but no. And then a few of the D2s start showing me some interest. So come down. So next thing I know, I'm driving down to Texas with my mom. And we stop at West Texas A&M, which is in Wichita Falls. No, it's in it's West Texas. And just right off the first stepping on campus, I just knew. I was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah,
it just didn't feel like it,
Yep.
So we drive down to Abilene, Texas, which is right in the middle of Texas. People born and raised in Texas don't even know where Abilene is on the map. That's how small this town is. But show up to this tiny town in Abilene, and all I knew at the time was they were ranked, I think, 5th in the nation, and they had the Harlem Hill runner-up. And the Harlem Hill is the D2 Heisman.
Okay,
so we had a really good running back on our team. So there was a lot of good kind of hype and energy around this team, and I could feel it on the campus. The campus itself was, again, really nice and immaculate for a small school. The coach, Jason Johns, who was recruiting me, and again, I'm they don't recruit outside of Texas. If you looked at Abilene Christian's roster, it was Texas.
Right.
And then boom, me, Colorado.
Uh-huh.
So he actually thought my Cherry Creek logo. He thought it was a Corpus Christi logo. It's another town in Texas.
Right. Yeah.
So he was like, he was surprised that somebody from Colorado even was on his radar, but. They ended up giving me a spot on the team as a linebacker. They recruited me as a linebacker.
Okay.
And next thing I know, I'm going out to Texas and gearing up to be a Wildcat. And so I was taking it really serious.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was like, this is... on my visit, I got to walk into the weight room and see the defense lifting.
Mm-hmm.
That was stunning, man.
Right,
like walking into... this college atmosphere with dudes hang cleaning 300 pounds and stuff. And I'm just like, wow, you're now the small fish in the pond.
For sure. Yeah, you're no longer the big guy on campus.
Exactly. So I just remember being impressed by that, just the energy, the grit in the weight room. The coach, Jason Johns, he kind of showed me this cool little film about how all of his athletes have great grades and how they take it really serious. What I really liked is he also made an effort to once a week, like you would team up with another linebacker and you just get to know the guy.
Cool. That's great.
He tried to really bond us as men and spiritually too. And that was a cool factor being down there, is like the team would pray after practice and stuff.
Awesome.
They had some spiritual influence into the actual football team. I will say this about the school, though, is that the school itself was just too strict. It was a Church of Christ school.
Right.
And again, I'm not trying to talk down on anybody, but for me, it was just too strict. You're an 18-year-old kid. They had mandatory chapel, which you had to swipe in, swipe out.
Yeah.
I think you had to get ever so much for a semester, or you would get expelled.
Right.
They were serious about it.
Yeah.
They had curfew. I think it was like 11 o'clock curfew. It was just very strict, and I just was like, I'm an adult basically now, and I should be able to make my own decisions. For sure. Right? So it was just a little bit too strict, and that caused me and the other players to just kind of lose our mind. Players wanted to, like, on the weekends they would want to get out and go to Dallas and party and stuff.
For sure.
I'll say this, is I also realized down at ACU, I was like, I am way more serious than all these guys. Like, these guys don't take it as serious as I do. They all, now that I'm at the college level, like, I'm not drinking and partying. I'm taking really good care of my body, getting enough sleep. Like,
for sure.
I just felt like none of the guys were as dedicated as I was. So I was like, okay, this has been a good fit and all, but I want to go to a D1 where it is taken serious, or at least you think.
Yeah.
And so that ended up becoming kind of the next goal. I was like, okay, this was a good stepping stone. It's a well-renowned D2 program, and this is only going to help you upgrade to the D1, right?
For sure.
So... And that was also, like, every one of my teammates wanted to transfer, man. None of us were... Football was good, but living in Abilene was just not fun.
Right. Gotcha.
So we all were kind of scouting out, hey, where can we transfer? Where can we go? And one of my buddies transferred to the University of Arkansas after 2 semesters, and we were like, Arkansas, okay.
Yeah.
But he ended up, he loved it and made the team without any flaw, broke the bench record, just made a good name for himself. I was like, good for you, man.
Yeah.
Blake Gunderson, if you hear this. And a lot of my other friends transferred to Texas schools. So here's where I got another spark of football momentum. Was they ended up, Abilene moved me to fullback. Well, they actually asked me, like, hey, you're going to be like 3rd string linebacker. If you actually want to get some play time and you move to fullback, like, you're going to be a starter or a backup minimum.
Yeah.
I was like, fullback. I was like, I despise fullbacks. I've been cracking those guys my whole life.
Yeah.
But then people were like, oh, fullback. Yeah, dude, you could go somewhere with that. You could make it to the league. I remember one guy saying, you'll go to the league if you go to fullback. And I was just like, that was the first time somebody besides myself said you could go to the NFL.
Right.
I was like, huh. So I moved to fullback, and the next thing I know, I'm kind of in the offense grind now, which, if you know football well enough to know, like, the offense and defense have different mentalities.
Yeah, for sure.
They lift different. They walk around campus different. It's different mentality. So, but they also liked that. They liked that they were bringing kind of a nasty defensive guy over to the fullback position.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, I was like, if you stayed at Abilene were a starter for a few years, like, that will set you up for a good opportunity to maybe go, right? So things are going good for football there. I'm getting reps as the starter. I'm bigger and stronger than ever before. I think I was like 240, 245 or something. And then one play, they would make us so that they knew we knew our assignment, we would walk up to the line during practice and we'd have to point out the guy we were blocking.
Okay.
Which was kind of like, surprise, cat's out the bag.
Right, right.
So I would have to walk up and be like, I'm going, like Freddie T right there, big middle linebacker, I'm coming to get him. Mm-hmm. So he knew, okay, I'm going right after that fullback. So I'll never forget this play, man. I'm going on an ISO, which is a run right up the middle, basically. And I am supposed to basically just knock this middle linebacker out the way. And I'm blocking this middle linebacker, and then this running back, who I'm supposed to lead the way for, he tries to bulldoze through both of us. And as my elbow was extended, his helmet went full speed and popped my elbow out of place. And so that felt like a point-blank gunshot. Like I'd luckily never had sustained a serious injury until that point.
Right, right.
But I immediately, like, as soon as he hit me, I turned around, I'm like moseying off to the side, just holding my elbow. And the look on the coach's face was more scary than the actual pain.
Right, right.
I guess my elbow was, like, contorted or...
Yeah, yeah.
So, anyways, that... I had no idea. I knew I was pretty banged up, but I was like, man, did you break something? Did you tear something? I have no idea. So this began my first experience of poor rehab or therapy and medical attention from college.
Okay.
So they basically made me, because they couldn't get an x-ray in that day, I had to wait a whole other day to get even brought into the hospital to get an x-ray.
Okay.
So I already felt like I was kind of being swept under the rug.
Right, right.
I was like, you guys aren't going to give me immediate... They gave me some high-level ibuprofen.
For sure, yeah.
I was like, this is not going to help me.
Right, right.
So, yeah, they give me some x-rays all to determine, oh, yeah, I remember the doctor saying, oh, you jammed up your ligaments pretty good there. I was like, is that the medical diagnosis? So, and also, it's like, how can you even, now that I know more about health, it's like, how could you even see the soft tissue damage through the x-ray?
Right,
right,
so
anyways, I felt like I was getting really gypped medical advice and treatment. So, I just remember not even being I couldn't practice, I was just standing there in this robot thing, but I remember not even getting a plan for rehab. Like, I would walk in, get iced. If I was lucky, one of the athletic training assistants would like kind of massage it with some biofreeze or something.
Right.
I remember going in and trying to make up my own rehab movements. Man, it was absolutely pathetic that that's what it came down to. But so I ended up going back home, and for I think it was summer break. That's right, summer break. And I remember having this chat with my parents, like, I kind of don't want to go back there, really. And then I remember one friend actually my roommate, who was supposed to room with me sophomore year, he was like, I'm not going to go back. So I was like, one thing after another kind of unraveling. So I just remember deciding, I was like, I don't want to go back to Abilene and have to, I kid you not, dude, every one of my friends transferred to Texas A&M or Blinn. They just all disappeared. So I was like, I don't want to start over, and my elbow's not 100% yet. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a semester off, and I'm going to continue to rehab. And I had way more resources to rehab here, thanks to my mom. She is an esthetician who does facials and waxes and mostly image care type stuff. But she has a great network of acupuncturists and massage therapists and other holistic people out here.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I mean, from a young age, I've been getting good therapy, right?
Awesome, yeah.
So I figured, I was like, okay, I'm obviously not getting any care down in Abilene. I'm going to come back home, rehab, kind of start from scratch, figure out what's next, see what D1 I can transfer to. So let the search begin. So as I'm rehabbing, I'm taking a semester off, and which was interesting, just, not having a job. I mean, actually, I did get a job. I did get a job. I worked at a country club as a busboy, I believe, that year, but didn't have any major obligations, right?
Right, yeah.
So I'm scouting out, and I'm kind of creating this net of, hey, what D1, what part of the country do I want to go to? It was kind of a cool feeling. I was like, I could go anywhere I want, right?
Right.
So I was like, I want to stay somewhat close to home. So still was looking down at Texas. My sister was down there. I told you my dad's parents were still kind of down there in East Texas. So Texas was still on the radar, and football's serious at every level.
Yeah, yeah.
Hawaii got onto the radar randomly, and that was because they have this system called the WUI, the Western University Exchange Program. And there's 13 states, and they're all West Coast states.
Okay.
And if you're a resident of these states, you can go to Hawaii for a cheaper tuition than out of state.
Oh, cool.
So and they do that to encourage a little bit more
diversity
and so kids can leave that school and other kids from the West Coast can come to that school.
Awesome.
So it was really cool. I was like, ooh, I could go to Hawaii on a discount, if that makes sense, right? So that kind of came onto the radar randomly. But then Arkansas, because my friend went there, right? And it was talking really highly of it, and I was like, Arkansas. So that got onto the radar, again, randomly because of his high praise. So then, let's see. I'm still scouting out what schools I would want to go to. I decided that I want to stick with fullback. I could have played linebacker, but I wanted to stick with fullback because I thought that would pave the way to the NFL the best, right?
Right, yeah.
And then so 2010 summer was when I was applying to all these schools, and I applied to a handful. The University of Arkansas replied back in 2 weeks, and they said, "Congrats, you're in." I was like, "Well, that's a good start." That's an option now, right?
Right, right.
TCU, Texas Christian University, they, thank God, they didn't accept me, which is good because they're, I think, the most expensive school in Texas. So
really?
that
Wow.
saved me a dime. And Hawaii was just this pending. They were waiting, they were looking. It was just like, yes or no.
Right.
So by summer 2010, I had kind of narrowed it down to Hawaii and Arkansas. And I had my mom and I had planned this trip to kind of go scout out both schools and meet the coaches. And she also won this. Somehow she won some Hilton vacation rental stay. So she got like 4 nights free at this Hilton Hawaiian Village, which is a very popular one in Honolulu. So it was like the perfect thing. I was like, ooh, we get to go on a little family trip to Hawaii, and I get to scope out the school, meet the coach, see what's going on. So we're flying out to Hawaii, and if you've ever been to Hawaii, have you?
I have, actually, when I was a young kid, but I don't remember a whole lot. So.
Was it Oahu? Do you
I don't remember. No, I don't remember.
So Oahu is the island that has Honolulu and Waikiki. It's the most populated, probably, island. It has the university. So most people flying to Hawaii are just feeling there's a vibe. You know, everybody's excited for this vacation. It's a 5, 6, 7 hour flight, but everybody's kind of got this island fever going, right? So I remember getting to Hawaii, and obviously I had not been accepted yet. So I told myself, don't you fall in love with this place, because for all you know, you could get denied to the school, right? So I was like, you go here and you observe, you just soak it in, but don't you dare get attached.
Right.
So sure enough, it was actually really easy not to get attached for these reasons. One, I just remember first, the campus was really run down. I remember going on the campus tour, and they told us a third of the buildings were in such bad conditions, people can't go in them. Wow. Right? They happened to be doing the campus cleanup during that tour, so just palm trees are all on the ground. It just looked bad, man.
Yeah.
To this day, they're doing better, I'll say this, thanks to my money. But they're improving, but man, they are outdated, man. That whole school. Right. So on top of that, I'm trying to meet with this Coach Rich Miano, and he's basically the gatekeeper for anybody who transfers or walks on, right? Okay. And so he was basically saying, hey, come down to I'm doing this little summer clinic thing for the youth kids, so come on down, meet me there. I'll have you run around and stuff, and I'll assess you from that. So I'm like, okay. So I show up to this, I think it was called Clum Gym, just worn, tattered gym, man. And there's all these kids running around, and I'm just standing there like, what am I doing? Am I going to be running around with these 5, 6, 7-year-olds?
Right.
Luckily, there was 2 other college hopefuls, so I wasn't like the only person there. But it just was such a weird thing, man. Like going through all these little stations, and it was a good clinic, but I'm like, this coach isn't even looking at me. Like, what am I doing here?
Right.
So I remember going up to him after the clinic and just being like, hey, man, like I noticed you didn't really even see me, so I wanted to introduce myself, give you my film, and I just remember it was very much like bad eye contact, just kind of shrugging under the shoulders, just kind of like bad vibes, man. And he just here's what I told him I was coming from Abilene Christian. He was like, "Where's that?" I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Dude, I went there to hopefully bring some validity to my skill, and you don't even know where this place is." So that backfired. And so he basically left it as this. He was like, "Hey, man, like." We don't even have a fullback because we run the spread offense. So you're going to have to play linebacker, and our linebacker, like, we're pretty much set. So he was he was kind of, I don't want to say blowing me off, but he was basically saying, like, we don't need you.
Yeah.
So he was like, you can try out next spring when we have our yearly tryout. No guarantee. And so I remember I handed in my film, and I just walked out of there feeling like, that was the dumbest waste of time ever.
Right.
Felt stupid, to be honest. And so from then on, I was just like, okay, well, let's enjoy our vacation, and it is what it is. So the whole time I'm in Hawaii, going back and forth with this Miyano character, I'm emailing this coach from Arkansas, Coach Kevin Peoples. And it was just... So Hawaii was in the Western Athletic Conference, which was a lesser division at the time. And I'm talking to a coach in the SEC, which is the cream of the crop, top
the best of the best.
Right. And so it was perplexing because this SEC coach was emailing me back within the minute and was showing, like, very detailed and
professional.
And then this other guy had me show up to his youth summer clinic. So I'm just like, what's going on here?
Right.
So I remember leaving Hawaii on that plane, and again, I hadn't been accepted yet to the school, so I had no idea what was in store, but I was like, okay, you haven't been accepted, the campus is run down, this is a third world country, like it's part of America, but there's so many different ethnicities and cultures out there, which is not a bad thing, but I just remember it was a little intimidating to me.
For sure.
And then on top of that, the coach, I would like to say he wiped his ass with me. That's what I felt like. So I just remember being on the flight back home, like, that was a fun vacation, but I'm not going there. Okay. So, again, I'm in communication with that coach from Arkansas, and he's saying, hey, come on out, come meet me. So my mom and I fly out to, I think, a part of Oklahoma. We rent a car, and we're driving to Fayetteville, Arkansas. I knew nothing about Arkansas until I got there, but I remember us driving down one of the roads heading into the Ozark mountain range, where the campus is, and I just remember us being in awe. Like, this is Arkansas, just endless miles of rolling green hills, and I thought it was going to be like Texas, kind of dry, tumbleweed. We were stunned by how beautiful it was down there. We stop, we get dinner at your local diner, and it's just it's a Razorback college town. Like, everything is, I could just tell, I was like, dude, if you're an athlete, you're like a celebrity here.
For sure, yeah.
And so that was a cool feeling, or a cool potential, right, to see that possibility. So I'm just falling in love one second after another with this place. I always, again, I'm from Colorado, but I feel like I have a little southern in me going down to Texas so much.
Yeah, of course.
So I love, like, the southern hospitality. I love southern food. Southern humidity can be a little dicey sometimes, but I just remember everybody down there had that southern comfort and love in them, just very nice people. So then I go on the campus tour, which was night and day to Hawaii, and it is just like this beautiful, green grass, lawns, old but really nice red brick buildings. It just felt like such a nice, like, this southern environment. And
right.
Just everybody from the receptionist to people like the teachers, anybody I met just was so friendly and kind. I always wondered what life would have been like if I went to Arkansas. But so then I meet here's where it really gets good, was I meet Coach Peoples, and the coaching offices were on the stadium site. So
cool. Yeah.
I'm waiting. So my mom and I are waiting in this memorabilia room with all the SEC accolades and just.
Right.
I mean, you're just like big-eyed looking at this place. They see all the Darren McFadden back when they were killing it back then. So I just remember in their little thing they had each helmet of the SEC opponent, and I'm just like kind of daydreaming about, oh my gosh, dude, like if this works, you're going to be going down and playing Alabama,
right.
You know, LSU. Like there's going to be kind of it's exciting, but I was like, dude, you're going to be going against some freaks.
Yeah, probably a little intimidating as well, right?
Very. It was exciting and intimidating. Like,
for sure.
Almost questioning, like, dude, are you ready? Like my elbow. The coach didn't know this, but my elbow was not 100% yet.
Right.
So, and I was not going to disclose that, but
for sure.
So I remember he calls me in, walks me down this long hallway of just immaculate facility, man.
Right.
And again, he's sitting in the office. He's kind of got his leg crossed. I mean, just the physical tone of the meeting was night and day compared to Hawaii.
Right.
You know, the other guy's kind of rolling his eyes and bouncing around. This guy is like, just everything about him was relaxed and comfortable.
For sure.
So, I kind of explained to him where I was at. I was like, hey, how it came from Abilene Christian, and he perked up when he saw that. And I told him about Hawaii and how it was an option, but it wasn't looking that good.
Right.
And then he was like, son, you're here. He was like, you're here for a golden opportunity. Our first string fullback is a senior. He's got his position. He's good to go.
Yeah.
Our second string fullback, he just transferred because I guess he like accidentally rolled up on a lineman's leg in practice and like took his knee out for the season. So he was like so embarrassed by that he transferred.
Yeah.
So he's like, we don't have anybody on our current roster that can fill the fullback role. And she was like, so you are essentially found like here at the perfect time.
Right.
And then so he was like, yeah. I was like, do I need to try out or anything? He was like, me and the staff can look at a player in the room and tell if they can play football or not. And he was like, I don't see any problem with you. So, dude, I was like, finally, like, I just had this coach in Hawaii kind of roll his eyes and wipe his butt with me, and now this coach from an SEC school is like seeing my potential and showing interest. So I was like, this is what I expect out of myself, you know. So after that, I mean, he gave me the specifics. He was like, yeah, go get. He was like, we'll add you to the roster. Go schedule your classes. Like, do it quickly because they're probably already full.
Right.
And yeah, we'll get you here for 2 days in the fall. And I was like, I was kind of just almost out of body. I swear.
Shocked almost. Right?
Silent. I was just silent. I remember walking back down that long hallway with my mom. And we were just in silence. And then we get to the car and she was like, well, it sounds like you just made the team.
Yeah.
And I was like, it sounds like it, you know. So after that, man, I went straight to the kinesiology department and got my classes scheduled for the fall of 2010. We went and found the apartment I would stay in, which this is funny. We were debating between a place that was $400 or $450 for a month. And this was a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, like fully furnished.
Right.
$450, dude. We were like stressing about that. But I found this, you know, nice apartment that I could just visualize myself being there, going to practice, man. It was all coming together. Went to the mall, bought some Razorback shirts. That's how mentally set I was there, right?
Right.
And then so I just remember being close to on cloud 9, like feeling like finally not only are you getting what you thought like you were capable of, but it's not just D1. Like you're going into Arkansas, which they were ranked 5 in the nation. They had Ryan Mallett, who had a lot of hype behind him. Yeah. Bobby Petrino before his big scandal thing. But so there was a lot of energy in Arkansas as well. For sure. So I left Arkansas, and I was trying not to be like, I was calling my friends and trying not to be like overly cocky about it, but I was like, guys, I'm going to go to Arkansas and stay tuned for some ESPN games. Basically, that's where my head was going.
Yeah, no, I would be tough not to allow your mind to go there, you know?
So I swear that summer, I was working out with one of my other high school former friends who was playing college ball at UNC. And he basically, like, his trainer was letting me work out with them. So I had free personal training at this really nice gym, and I was wearing my Arkansas stuff. Man, I was just, that was a high point that I was soon to be struck down from.
Right. Now I know you've got a client here pretty soon. So for the sake of time, why don't you just share a little bit, Joel, in regards to kind of like what I mean, just speed us up a little bit in regards to Arkansas, and then we'll kind of work towards wrapping things up for the sake of time. Right. So why didn't you end up playing football at Arkansas?
So I have the 30-minute story version and the 3-minute. So I'll give you the 3-minute for the time's sake. So anyways, I spent the rest of the summer expecting to go to Arkansas, all to get a call from that coach 2 weeks before I'm supposed to put on a helmet. He says, hey, we just tried to add you to the roster, and you got waived as being ineligible in the conference during the compliance. And what that comes down to, I'm like, what does that even mean? So he's like, I have no idea. I've never dealt with this before. You have to call our compliance and get the details. So what it came down to was, because of my really slippery start freshman year of high school, I dug myself into some holes where I didn't get all the general education requirements you need. When you're a high school athlete, you're about to graduate, and you're going to be you hope to play in college, you enter the NCAA clearinghouse. Right. You have to. And they will take your GPA, your test scores, and your general education requirements, and they basically give you a thumbs up or thumbs down. You're a D1 qualified athlete or you're not. So a lot of players, like myself, screw up or whatever, and they end up non-qualified athletes. So those are the guys who go to the JUCO or, in my instance, the D2. From there, it's up to the player to gain the requirements they need to transfer to whatever conference they want to.
Right.
And so, again, I didn't have any real mentors or help along the way, so I was doing this all on my own. So here's where it got sticky, was the SEC, not just Arkansas, the SEC. If you want to transfer up as a non-qualified athlete, you have to have 3 categories. You have to have 48 hours of transferable credits, which I had.
Okay.
You had to have a 2.5 GPA, which I had. I got my crap together after high school. Here's where I lost, was you had to have 3 consecutive semesters at a 4-year school. And I only had 2 from Abilene Christian, and then I did take some classes at Metro South. So I had 3 semesters, but because they weren't at the same school, I was not qualified to play in the SEC. The most nit-nacky, stupid thing that crushed my dreams.
Right.
But that was the reality, and I was naive. I can admit I was naive, because I was like, why would this Arkansas coach bring me in if he didn't already know my standings, right?
Right.
And he probably thought, hey, this kid already knows his situation. So it was literally being naive. So found out I was ineligible in the Arkansas, the SEC, and that was, luckily to this day, man, the lowest point of my life. Like the deepest, if you want to even call it depressed, lost. I mean, I felt empty. I mean, dude, I was standing, after I got that phone call in that kitchen, I walked outside, stood there in the yard just looking up, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What is this about? Talking about, right?
Yeah.
I've always trusted his plan, even if it doesn't go with mine. And I think that's been a very important factor of who I am to this day, but because it's happened in other scenarios later on in life. But just having this kind of unwavering confidence that his plan is the ultimate plan is kept me out of depression or out of low points, if you want to call it that.
That's powerful,
So I literally stayed in a dark place for about a week. Didn't tell my parents about that news. Didn't tell my friends. I think I it felt like I stayed in this dark basement for a week. Finally told my mom, set her down, and she was the only person that could possibly feel what I was going through, because she had been in each interaction with the coaches. She sat and was right by my side.
Yeah, your sidekick, so to speak.
She was my football sidekick.
Yeah.
So she was actually the one who was like, hey, what about Hawaii? And it was funny because at some point during that summer, Hawaii accepted me, right?
Okay, cool.
To the school.
Yeah.
And then I did email that Hawaii coach and say, hey, wondering what you thought of my film, blah, 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 just for fun, you know? And then he basically said, oh, I lost your film. Can you? Yeah. So I typed up this pretty firm email to him saying, hey, I think you need to take people's time more serious. Like, you just let a good athlete slip through your fingertips, and now I'm going to Arkansas.
Right.
It was that, but a little bit more kind of in your face.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And I was about to, after I typed it, I was gonna send it, and I was like, you know what? I feel better now, so why would I? You know, he's gonna care less. So
right.
Why burn that bridge and even waste his time? Delete. That was important. Probably.
Very smart, right? Very smart. Yeah.
So my mom literally makes me call Hawaii compliance and see what the WAC requires. And so I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I don't even want to go to Hawaii.
Right.
But just for fun, let's see what they need. So the WAC required 24 transferable credits, had it. 2.0 had it. And 2 semesters at a 4-year school. So I had all the requirements to play in the WAC.
Right.
With that said, I had a really bad opportunity, right? The guy basically said you can walk on, no guarantees. So even though I was eligible to play in Hawaii, I didn't have a good opportunity.
For sure, yeah.
And so I looked myself in the mirror, literally, one night, and I said, hey, football has been your driving force to this day.
Right.
And right now, Hawaii is the only cracked window that you're going to be able to play.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it was, hey, you could still go to Arkansas and be a student and enjoy that and not play football again. That immediately was not going to happen. That would eat out my soul.
Mm-hmm.
You could stay home another semester and try to regroup. I was like, no, I got to get out of here, man. I'm losing valuable time. So I had to look at myself and say, if Hawaii is where football is available, you have to go do it. And you have to trust that God will take care of you along the way.
Absolutely.
And so, fast forward, man, I'm on a flight out to Hawaii with my arms crossed and a bitter attitude, and I can't believe that I am going from one side of the country all the way across the ocean to the other just to play football. So, I could go on and on about how the Hawaii journey unfolded, but first opportunity to try out, I strained my hamstring. So, missed that opportunity. Another year goes by. I slowly, and I shouldn't say slowly, I pestered the coaching staff, give me a chance. I came all the way out here, I'm healthy, give me a chance. Finally, I win over Coach Miano, the guy who had basically, dissed me for many years. Because he finally watched my highlight film. That's probably why he started to respect me a little bit.
Right.
So I get him on my side, and then he basically says, I'll give you a chance. Like, I'm probably going to get promoted to head coach, and I'll give you a chance.
Right.
So my senior year eligibility comes around, and he is supposed to potentially be head coach. He went into the interview probably too cocky and gimme, and they say nope.
Yeah.
Fire the whole staff, bring in this guy Norm Chow from USC.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm left there as a senior who hasn't put on a helmet in 3 years. And I still want to, I came out here, I still want to try to take a stab at it. So I go to that coaching staff and I tell them exactly, I'm like, played it out being Christian. They were bringing the fullback position to the offense for the first time in school history.
Right.
So I was like, I can play that position, and all I'm asking for is a chance. And I did the tryout and stuff, and out of 150 guys, they only picked me and another freshman kid out of all the guys to make the team.
Yeah.
So that was very much like a miracle moment for me, because there was plenty of other guys, so I honestly don't get why I made it out of them. Right. But that was very much like, hey, here. So start, and this will all kind of lead to how I ended up in this recovery field. I'm a starting fullback at this school, And then this kind of knee twinge starts to develop, and I literally just felt like a weird, tiny little iffy weird thing.
Right,
go away.
Right.
Didn't go away, man. One day after another, it kind of just got a little bit worse, a little bit worse. I'm like, what is this? And I'm not complaining about it because I don't want to be the old senior who's already hurt, right? But sure enough, this scraping pain gets worse and worse and starts to slow me down. I'm not like a speedy Gonzalez as it is, but so I need my full body to go fast.
For sure.
So now I'm like turning into a slow, and I can't even accelerate, and so things just go downhill from there. I'm not playing. I barely even practice. I get to a point, and I always wanted to, like, the whole goal was to make a D1 team, and then I knew I wasn't going to be drafted. Come on now. Right. But I thought I could stand out at a pro day and get a undrafted opportunity, right? Right. And so I wake up one morning during the season, and I have plantar fasciitis pain. My shoulder's doing a weird thing, and my knee is just screwed. Right. And I'm like, you're not even playing. So I'm like, that was the moment when I said, I think I care more about my body than I do football. Right. And so luckily my body forced me to quit. Mm-hmm. But that was pretty much when football became a closed chapter. Right.
Now, so we got to wrap things up here because I know you have a client here in about 15 minutes. So just as kind of like you see that dream, Joel, kind of like go out the window, and it's like I had something very similar where it's like sports was my life. I played a year of college football, and you dream about the NFL, the NBA. You're a kid, right? You have these childhood dreams, you have these aspirations, but then the reality of life, the reality of our own athletic potential, and how elite these D1 athletes are and these professional athletes are. That reality kind of starts sinking in. So just kind of to wrap up our conversation and just kind of this story about this pursuit of football. What was it like in kind of those moments when you really realized, like, hey, you know what, this dream is over and I'm going to have to transition into something else? Was that hard, or were you at that point where it's like, hey, you know what, I'm actually ready for something different?
It was hard, man, because as I probably made clear, like, football became my identity. Right. That's not a good thing.
Right. I can relate. Yeah.
I bet people would introduce me like, Joel, yeah, the guy who plays football.
For sure. Yeah.
In hindsight, I don't want to be known for that. I don't want to be known for way more than a stupid sport,
Absolutely.
But tapping on that is, yes, dude, I realized that football was such an easy avenue to make lifelong friends. And then after football, especially just being in Hawaii, dude, I wasn't around that football group, and I actually was bitter towards them. Right. I was bitter towards those guys walking around campus as buddies, and I'm just like this nomad.
You're on the outside.
I'm on the outside.
I can relate, man. I went through it. Yeah.
And it was like salt in the wound, because random classmates would be like, oh, you play football? And then I'd have to tell them this story, an explanation on why I'm not there yet.
And it was humbling, right? And it hurt.
Oh, humbling. Dude.
Yeah.
Lots of humbling moments in that chapter. But yeah, dude, my identity was kind of stripped from me, which is probably a good thing, because I need to be more than just a football player. But
absolutely.
So yeah, finding friends, and luckily I have a lot of good friends to this day that I made without football. Right. But that was huge, is not having that instant community and having to like make because football, it's like you have to be at the weight room, you have to be at film.
Yep, absolutely.
So like having to go out of your way to be like, hey, do you want to hang out or something like that, was just like, it was definitely different. But I would say it didn't end how I wanted it to. Obviously, I wanted to get some college accolades, hopefully get a stab at the NFL. Right. But now I look back, man, and I feel blessed that I think these minor injuries protected me from major injuries. Right. Fullbacks do not last long in the NFL. Right, for sure. And so I knew I had to be 20% if I wanted to survive a week of practice in the NFL. So I think now, I watch football now, and I'm just like, gosh, I can't believe I used to do that stuff. Literally go full force into another human body.
For sure.
But yeah, like I said, all my injuries, and I was studying kinesiology at Hawaii, so I was learning all about the body. But and the thought of doing therapy and rehab or being an athletic trainer was the furthest thing. I was going to be a personal trainer or a strength coach, which I obviously have experience doing. But I would say that my injuries led me to, and my banged up football body led me to the environments that I work at now, like Denver Sports Recovery and the Resilience Code, and now here at my home operation. But I walked into Denver Sports Recovery because my sister had her brain set up there.
Yeah.
And actually, full story, Derek McBride was the first guy to work on me. He was working the floor, and he was taking care of. I strained my hamstring again just running. That was my white flag moment of, hey, you need to repair your football body before you take on any other endeavors. And so I had all these tweaks that were kind of screaming at me, right? And then finally a strained hamstring was like, you need to do something or it's going to get worse and worse.
Right.
So Derek was obviously, if you guys have heard his podcast, he's just a really smart and chill guy, and we had a lot in common. We had similar credentials, and I was like, I wonder if I could work in a place like this, you know? And then so, selfishly, I wanted to work there so that I could use all the recovery tools for free.
Yeah, there you go, man.
They could have paid me $10 an hour, and I would have taken the job.
Right.
So, sure enough, I asked Andrea, one of the managers there at the time, and owners, for a part-time job, which was Sunday, and then it blew up from there. They liked my approach and kind of personality, and so I ended up working there almost full-time. Had a one of the members there. I was working with his daughter. He ended up being a vice principal at a new high school called Northfield, and he brought me in to be their strength coach.
Cool.
So I had a really cool chapter where I was, working with this new high school as a strength coach, and then going down the street and working one-on-one with people.
Yeah.
And so actually trying all the tools and all the therapies offered at places like that is what got me interested in pursuing them. So I had been familiar with chiropractor, acupuncture, massage, you name it. Some of the techniques there that they offered were fairly new. So one of the techniques was called fascial stretch therapy.
Yeah.
And after I had my first stretch, I was like, I didn't even know that was a service. That was awesome. I feel great. And so I started to pursue the techniques that I found most helpful for me and the ones that I would enjoy offering the most. So to this day, what I do mostly of as far as soft tissue therapy is the table-based stretch, where it's a fairly gentle approach. I feel I can honestly do that to anybody and have a good outcome to it. And just a great way to get a deeper stretch than you could ever do on your own. The other technique I do is a little bit more aggressive, and it's a pin and stretch technique where I use my hand, elbow, or even my foot to pin down the areas of knots that I find in the body. And then I work with the client, we communicate, and we use their movement to kind of soften up. It's almost like an assisted foam rolling session.
Okay.
It sounds bizarre as I describe it, but it is. I mean, once clients try it, they're like, the release they feel, they're hooked. Right. And so between getting my, strength and conditioning operation going, doing personal training on the side, and working at these recovery centers, I kind of started, I'm like, I can do both, right? And people need both.
Absolutely.
That's what I found is I would be working with a client on their injury, and then as I eavesdrop and dig more about what they're doing for movement, I'm like, well, no wonder your joints hurt. You have zero strength training going on, and all you do is run. So
absolutely, yeah.
So I started to realize, like, these clients need influence in both sides of the spectrum if they want to be balanced.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so some people already have trainers at 24 or go to massage therapists, and I'm not going to trample on anybody's feet, but I'm it's night and day. The clients that give me kind of the full control, right? They let me oversee their training or movement and then take care of their chronic or acute injuries. Magic happens, man.
Absolutely.
And anything outside of that, it doesn't happen. That's the thing.
Right.
So the clients that I, only come in once things flare up, maybe it's every 6 weeks, sometimes it's every 6 months.
Right.
I can get that acute pain lessened, but then I'm not going to be able to fix the chronic root of why that's happening, right? So that's kind of what I've led to now as we sit in my little home basement here and have the squat rack and all the essentials for strength training.
Yeah.
And then we'll bust out the table here. in a second. Actually, the next client I have is a perfect example. 60-year-old guy, never touched a weight in his life.
Right.
Came to me with some chronic issues, and I've convinced this old dog to do some new tricks.
Love it, man.
And even just basic movement. He's not going to be deadlifting 200 pounds, but just, hey.
And he doesn't need to.
No,
he doesn't need to, right.
So we just work on things like, he slips in his house sometimes, so we work on balance.
Awesome.
We do enough to keep his bones or his muscles strong and taut enough so that his joints are kind of stable.
Yeah.
And, it's once a week. We get him in for 90 minutes, but that is kind of the anchor of his health.
Absolutely.
And then if I give him little to-do lists, like, hey, make sure you get a couple walks in. He went and bought his own rowing machine. That's how
cool
badass this guy is.
That's great.
You'll probably meet him when he walks down here in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of what I have here now. And as I've worked at places like Denver Sports Recovery and the Resilience Code and these state-of-the-art facilities, which I'm very grateful to be a part of, I've just realized that the average Joe can't sustain and afford to pay $110 for a stretch. And so I came to this point where I was like, I'm not going to be able to truly help this person if I see him once a month.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to offer stretches out of this house.
Right, yeah.
And at the time, dude, there was a couch and a pool table. So I've completely transformed this basement into what is a comfortable and definitely efficient place where you can get a totally thorough workout done, and you can get professional grade soft tissue work for a reasonable price.
For sure,
right?
For sure.
So
I love
my prices are half of what you're going to pay. And what I'm trying to do here is essentially remove the overhead expenses that prohibit people from getting the care they need. Right?
Yes, I love that, man. Yeah.
This is what I'm calling phase 1. Right? I'm in the humble parents' basement right now, but I've collected all the equipment that I need.
Yeah.
My next vision is having phase 2, where I buy my own house that is probably smaller but 2-level, and I want the whole basement being a probably gym twice the size.
Right.
I could even have other therapists come.
Absolutely.
And that way, they can still make a decent living for the quality work they provide, but they don't have to give 50% of it away to be under a roof with a fancy name.
For sure.
And I love those places; they play their role, but it's not for everybody.
It's not, and you're providing something that's unique and different, and you're going to have just as big of an impact, if not a greater impact, in people's lives than some of those bigger facilities. Because, like I told you, it's like I can't go to one of these facilities, and right now in this season of my life, I can't afford to get the massage. I can't afford to get some of the stuff done that I know I need to get done and I want to get done on a regular basis. Because again, it's that money thing. So you're eliminating some factors so that a greater amount of people can get that necessary work done. So that's very valuable.
Right. What I've tried to do, because I hear people complain about their body composition or their chronic pains.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I'm removing so many excuses. I will come to you. If you have problems, I'll come to Colorado Springs.
Right.
For a fee, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
It's almost a fun game for me. It's like, how many excuses can I eliminate for this client to see how bad they really want it?
Right.
The tie it all together, as my football story kind of portrays, is like, I pursued that dream of playing D1 football for 5 years.
Right.
5 years. And do you know how many obstacles slammed in my face and redirected me? And so that's why I think I have a pretty firm core in my body of, if you want something, you're going to prove to me that you're going to go across the ocean or make sacrifices to get it.
I love that.
So yeah, my own story and history sets a tone for the clients that I work with.
That's great, man.
And so yeah, it can be a little bit, hey, I can confront the clients like, look, if you really want your back pain to go away, you need to do the homework I'm giving you. You need to show up for the sessions we say. You need to stop sitting like a slump all the time, right? So
for sure.
So yeah, that's kind of what I would like to do. And one of your original questions is, what kind of fuels me, or what?
What? Just the wrap up question is what lights you up, Joel?
All of that has led to me working with different people, and it's a very personal thing that I do. It's personal training. You're with a client on the table. You're talking the whole time. So seeing my clients accomplish their goals, whether it's, again, losing that 30 pounds before the wedding, or getting that 10-year shoulder pain lessened or even removed, right?
Right.
And just opening up, oh my gosh, like I can go play tennis with my kid again, just stuff like that, and just seeing them light up is what kind of is like, man, that makes me feel like that's your purpose.
For sure,
right?
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a really rewarding, and I just feel very, very blessed that I can, have a comfortable atmosphere to work in. I have a lot of great clients. Most of them are great. I'm just kidding. One of the clients just walked in. And it's just a rewarding feeling that, I'm kind of independent. Obviously, I have plenty of growth to continue to do, but I just feel fortunate that I have a job and career that I'm just on fire for, and it's rewarding. It can pay the bills and stuff.
Cool.
And it can, it just as we talked about before we started the podcast, just like the network that fitness has opened up. Like,
absolutely.
You seem like a cool guy that will hang out in the future.
Yeah, man, for sure. So if anybody that's listening, Joel, wants to kind of find out a little bit more about kind of like what you do specifically in regards to your training and some of the soft tissue work, if somebody wants to kind of follow along your journey, where can people find out more about you, your services, and follow along again on your journey?
So I'm spread all over Colorado, or Denver, I should say. If you want to see me for soft tissue, a good stretch, any type of chronic injury you've been dealing with, you can see me as far as downtown at Denver Sports Recovery, in southern Denver at Resilience Code, or even as far as Parker at my home, where I have my company All Things Fitness, which is being built as we speak.
Yeah. And then and your Instagram handle is?
So yeah, you can find me at Joel_Ragsdale. That's where I do most of my activity, but All Things Fitness Co. is also where I'll be ciphering most of my fitness and therapy posts moving forward.
Perfect. So, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm comfortable and open to working with young, old, able, disabled. I've worked with everybody in the spectrum. So if you're willing to work and achieve the goals you want, I'm a good fit for you.
Perfect. So Joel, I just want to thank you for sharing your story today on the 127 Fit podcast. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule here, cutting into a little bit of your training time with your client, but just thank you very much, man, for being real, for being open, and sharing your journey and just some of those ups and downs, including just the dream that you had to play football. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a blast and great talking to you. For sure.
So, 127 Fit podcast listeners, I just want to thank you again for tuning in to this conversation with Joel and myself. If you guys want to find out more about the guests that I'm bringing on to the podcast, you can find that information on Instagram. It's at 127fitness. My personal Instagram is at QVars. Facebook is at Quentin Vars. If you guys would do me a huge favor and please leave me a 5-star rating and review and subscribe to the podcast, that would be super cool. If you think you would be a great guest, or if you have a friend or an acquaintance that you think would be a great guest or guest for the 127 Fit podcast, you can send me an email or give this email out. And the email is 127fit@gmail.com. And as you guys are finding great value in a specific episode or episodes of the 127 Fit podcast, if you do me another huge favor and share the episode or episodes that you're finding that value in on your Facebook and Instagram stories, that would be greatly appreciated. And as you share that episode or episodes on your stories, please use the hashtag #BeSomeoneToFollow. And per the usual, I will leave you with Proverbs 24:10, which states, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. This time until next time, I will catch you guys later.